Bradley Beal is going to the Suns, and not the Heat, which is what I think everybody believed was going to happen. It's Chris Paul, it's Landry Shamet, and a bunch of second-round picks going to the Wizards as my phone is going off with additional details with Shams and Woj. Okay, so let's get the obvious out of the way. The current front office with Michael Winger, Will Dawkins, and Travis Schlenk were not the ones who gave Bradley Beal the huge contract and the no-trade clause, so you can't blame them for it. They basically just said, we've got to do what we can with this deal and everything. And obviously, if he was traded 3 years ago under the previous front office, they would have got a better return for him. We all understand this. Even so, from the Wizards' perspective, and then we can get to Phoenix and what they look like and all that, the way Chris Paul's contract is set up, they get out of the money pretty fast because he's got a bunch of options on it, right? Specifically, this upcoming season, it's like $15 million guaranteed. The last year's non-guaranteed, and if you force me to make a bet, I do not think Chris Paul is going to be on the Wizards next season. And, Shamet is just on a cheap contract. It is a bit lengthy, but it's cheap every year. And it seemed like the other possibility was them getting a Miami thing, which was going to be like Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and I want to say at least one first-round pick, potentially two at the most, but the Duncan Robinson contract would have gone on for a long time there. I don't know. I mean, if you forced me to make a prediction, I kind of would have bet on them getting the draft picks, but okay, this is the route they went. I mean, they still have some picks. They're getting second-rounders from the Suns. Now, with that said, we got to remember, Beal had the no-trade clause. He might have just said, I want Phoenix, and that's it. And now as far as what the Suns look like, okay. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton is still on the roster, although I'll get to him in a second. We can say probably Cameron Payne, don't know for a fact right now. As of right now, Cameron Payne is the only other player they have who's under contract for next season. He's got an option. It's certainly some more offensive firepower, no doubt. I mean, Bradley Beal, the dude gets buckets. Yes, his three-point rate has been down the past couple of seasons. Even so, we saw, especially in his days with John Wall, being a really good off-ball player, catch-and-shoot guy, all that stuff. He can, of course, beat somebody off the dribble. He's a good enough ball handler to where you can run pick and roll with him. And now he's going to have a balancing act with himself, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And I think the question with those three, less so about, who leads them in shot attempts and all that, it's more so, will there be an offense that is more than just ISOs, simple pick and rolls? That'll, of course, be part of what they do, but, that'll be on Frank Vogel to get some sort of emotion, even if it's simple actions out of the corner, just to give the defense a little something extra to deal with, Now, look, obviously this is not the surround KD and Booker with just a bunch of good 3-and-D type role players, and whether it's Chris Paul or another point guard who is a little younger or whatever. This is not that type of move. This is certainly a get another star player move from Matt Ishbia, who I'm just going to assume played a role in this one as he did with the Kevin Durant trade. And so it is still on the Suns to get their depth and all that stuff, but they also definitely did not have to give up a haul to get him. But yeah, let's talk about DeAndre Ayton now. So if Ayton is still going to be on this team, which, look, I don't know, because if you're going to think about the next move to fill out the rest of the roster, Ayton would be the one moving. But look, I mean, he didn't have a great relationship with Monty Williams. Now Frank Vogel's the coach there. Did they sign Vogel with the intention of, let's get the best version of Ayton? But after this move, they might just look at it as, we just got to round out the rest of this thing around our top three dudes, and trading Ayton is the way to do it. I don't know. If they want to go with keeping Ayton, then we got to deal with our depth stuff and all that, then, I mean, the DeAndre Ayton conversation that we've been having between, are they looking for him enough on rolls and seals to the basket? Is he aggressive enough in those things to where they want to look for him like that? Is he going to be aggressive enough when he gets the ball and all that stuff? Is he going to favor more physical stuff to get more trips to the line? Is he going to shoot all of his turnaround jumpers, all that stuff? That's always the conversation with Ayton. I get that. It's probably going to keep on being the conversation if they hold on to him. If they look to move him, then they look to move him, we go from there. The other question is defense. So I think earlier in his career, it's been a minute, so I might just be dead wrong. I feel like the idea around Beal defensively was yeah, he's fine. And then these last couple years with the Wizards, I think his reputation has dipped a little bit on that side of the floor. So we'll see there. Kevin Durant, of course, is at times, great help defender. I think Booker is better defensively now than what he was X amount of years ago. I mean, can you bring Josh Okogie back on a smaller deal? That's the sort of thing. I mean, Jock Landale as well, just a solid center. Can you bring him back on a cheap contract? Torrey Craig as well. Those are all those possibilities for them, because all those guys are on one-year deals that end after the season that just ended, but it might not technically be over in the CBA, if you know what I mean. But I mean, for Okogie and Craig, those are, for the most part, defense-first guys. I mean, I know Craig had a stretch in the playoffs where he was making threes like crazy, but I mean, we know what Torrey Craig is. He's a fine rotation player, similar to Okogie. If you were looking for a bunch of awesome, just two-way guys, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I will say that it will be a challenge for Phoenix with the assets they've got left to find multiple of those types of guys. The other thing is their point guard situation, where as of right now, Cameron Payne is on a contract that does have an option that they have to decide on within like 11 days. So, okay, I mean, Cameron Payne's a guy, of course. They're probably going to lean more on Devin Booker as a ball handler, as as we all know, he's gotten better at making reads and coming around screens and making those quick decisions, you know. To state an obvious, I mean, with Book, KD, and Beal, it's like the combination of any of those three running a screen and then making a skip pass to one of the other two or whatever. A lot of good things can come out of that, of course. And, you know, Beal should give them a little more juice as far as like another guy who can get to the basket, you know, attacking off the catch, that sort of thing. Like, I see the vision for it. It certainly presents other challenges, like how you're going to fill out the rest of the roster and all that. And there's also the matter of, like, having three guys who are this expensive and what that can mean down the road when extensions come into play and all that. Like, you know, it's certainly something. And also with Beal, of course, it's the fact that he's had some missed games now over the past couple years. Now, within that, like, one of them was a wrist injury that left him out for a while. He's had some hamstring stuff. One of them was like a shortened season. So, for what all that means, yeah, we didn't even get to the draft, and we already got our first big trade of the offseason.